Hey, we're back. Okay, so let's take a look at our map again and see where we are, since I wasted 20 minutes recording stuff with the title screen on. So this is a do-over. So we've worked our way back to 2, and we're going to do this whole left-hand wing now. Now, there is a pit right here, which is kind of interesting because it's probably like the most uninteresting little pit possible. So let's go back and zoom our map way back to here. And you can see that John's made this as a deep impression. So what is it really? Well, it's a 10-foot long, 10-foot deep open pit filled with filled and hidden by water. Now, if you drained all the water, there's nothing here anymore. It's only 10 foot long and it's 10 foot deep, so it's no big deal. There's no spikes in the bottom or anything like that. So if it still was the 1 foot deep of water and you weren't paying attention, you would just fall like you stepped into a swimming pool. Now, this next area here is really interesting. John did a good job marking these copper-colored metal plates that line the wall here. You see these little lines here? This is the induction trap. These plates are 6 feet high, 6 feet wide, cannot be damaged or removed. They set up an induction field, which is magnetic, which causes metal objects passing between them to become heated, except for aluminum. If you ever buy an induction frying pan, and it's aluminum, it won't do anything. It won't heat up. It's got to be a real ferrous metal, okay? All right, be sure to take note of that. No one's going to have anything made out of aluminum in D&D, are they? Okay, if they don't have any of those crappy frying pans you get at Walmart, they'll be okay. This induction field extends from floor to ceiling all the way down this hallway. And what happens is the more you walk through these plates, the more that magnetic field induces and heats up metals. So let's just read through it here. The metal will become uncomfortably warm after moving 20 feet into the field, painfully hot at 30, hot enough to damage at 40 feet and beyond. This includes armor, weapons, treasure, gold teeth, even magic users' daggers. So that means if you're wearing armor and you pass through this corridor, you're going to start taking damage. 1 to 8 damage at 40 feet, 2 to 16 at 50 feet, 3 to 30 at 60 feet, 4 to 40 at 70 feet. And if you're not carrying metal, you just have a slight discomfort. But metal carried in kind of wrapping like cloth will burn through at the 50-foot mark. If you wrap it in leather, it'll burn through the 60-foot mark. If you protect it by fire resistance, you take no damage if it saves versus spells, or half damage if you fail, right? Fighters and clerics have no other recourse than to take a full turn to take all your armor off and drag it through using Tensor's floating disc. Remember, if you tied like a bunch of rope on your armor as you pulled it through, wouldn't the rope burn through? No, it wouldn't, because it's not metal. So you could tie your armor into metal, but I don't want to give away solutions to this problem, but you need to think about this. Induction is a magnetic force, just like on a cooktop you can have, that will heat up metal, but not all metals, mostly ferrous metals. Now, behind this is a secret door that John's not marked here. It just has 8 ghouls that are waiting to ambush you in case you don't have your armor on, because there's really no way for someone to make it through unless there's being some incredibly heal going on. Or maybe you're using the cube to protect you when you come through with a wave. But does that protect you from the heat and induction? Maybe not. So you need to play that, take that into consideration. Remember the cube of force that had the 6 different settings on it? So be sure you read through that carefully in your DM's guide. Now, once we get past here and deal with the ghouls, we have stairs coming out of the muck, assuming you haven't drained it once again. No more muck. Now, remember, back in our first episode, John had drawn the map where the muck stops here. That actually isn't in the original map. But hey, that's not that big of a deal. It's still really cool. This room is interesting, and there's a detail that's not described here that you may want to consider including, or you may not. This is called the frictionless room. And we're going to pull up the old school map first so you can see, because we're going to talk about A, B, A, and C doesn't really matter. But think in your mind, follow along as I read this, where A and where B is. The strips labeled A are 5 foot wide open pits. They're 10 feet deep and the bottoms are lined with rusty like razor blades. These are drawn as 10 feet wide, so they're not that wide, and they're not spikes. We're not just picking on John here, that's okay. But the thing is, anyone falls into those pits takes 1 to 12 hit points of damage and will contract instant super tetanus and die in 2 to 5 rounds. Ow. Unless they save versus poison. Cure disease will also destroy the infection. That's extremely unrealistic. We know that. Okay, we've had lots of physics puzzles in the dungeon. Suddenly you're dying of tetanus in 4 minutes, 5 minutes. That seems pretty brutal, but that's up to you. The pit it could just been a bottomless pit. You fall to your death, right? But they wanted to give you a chance to survive. So you could probably change that if you wanted to be something else. But it's only 5 foot wide, so why don't you just take a running jump over it? Here's where the trick is. Walls, ceiling, and floor of area B, right, which seems to be in between A, are covered with a substance that's 100% frictionless. The substance extends to cover the ceiling and the walls, and around the razor pits. So the way it's written, it doesn't say the floor of the entire room. It says area B. Otherwise, they would never write the letter B on here. So you're going to have to assume that even though John's got the pits drawn too big here, that just the area between the pits is this frictionless material. Let's read more details about this, right? Anything on the silvery surface will move in the direction of its last horizontal force, they call it impetus, bouncing off walls like a billiard ball until you slide into the razor pit, right? So if you come in the room and this has got friction, a normal stone, and you run and jump over a 5-foot pit and land here, you slip and you continually move forward, you'll be no way to stop your movement while you're on your butt sliding into the next pit. Then you fall, you take 1 to 12 points of damage, then you get super tetanus, and then your friends are back here. So you could leave it that way. You could also change it to be something else. You wouldn't want it to be a pit where you fall to your death forever. Someone's fallen into the pit. They have this terrible tetanus situation. They could start, as your DM, you're describing to the person who's failed their saving throw or something like that. Because they have to save versus poison, right? If they fail their saving throw, read up on what tetanus does to people. As kids, we used to be terrified of it. They would give you lockjaw if you got like a rusty fishing hook in your foot or whatever, right? So you're going to have to figure out a way to navigate this. At the end of the hallway is an illusionary wall, so if someone goes to the hallway, try to attach a spike or whatever. But this is one thing you may want to change around a little bit. I think it's neat that this has friction. This has friction. Illusionary wall is whatever. This is only 5-foot wide pit, has razor blades at the bottom, not spikes. And this is the slippery stuff. It can be silver like a mirror, almost like the tube that we saw earlier. So the problem here is that spells specifically fly, levitate, jump, dimension door, blink, and teleport don't work. Why? Caraptus has figured out some kind of way to nullify just those spells, right? The dotted line is just in the original map, which is just right here. It's just an illusionary wall. That's just to make life more of a pain in the butt for people trying to like attach something to the wall or whatever. So once they figure out some kind of way to navigate this area, they can move to the next part. So the trick is to get some kind of a rope strung along the area. If you can get someone across here without falling to their death, you could probably open a door and then tie something to the door and close the door back. There's all kinds of things you can do. Take an iron spike and a hammer and make a rope here. There's ways to solve this. It's just the first time someone gets on this slippery surface. If players are smart and they throw something onto the ground, like I take an iron spike and I throw it on the ground and they see it slide and fall in the pit, they can't even peer in to see what's in the pit, but they can peer into this one and assume it's the same. There's all kinds of things you could do here to make this more interesting. Excuse me a second. There we go. All right. Let's move on to the next area. This area is really fun. You go through the store. We're going to go up to the next area here. There's a picture for this. It's a classic old picture. Now, it's going to be kind of low res, right, because it's been kind of zoomed up. But this is the stream flowing through the air room. It's a really neat room. And John's did a good job of making this look really cool with the water flowing, and he put bubbles in here, and it curves around the air. Really neat. Okay, so there's a stream running through this room that is suspended in midair. It enters and leaves through 2 tunnels. Each is about 6 feet in diameter. The lowest points of the tunnel where they come into the walls is about 2 feet from the floor. The stream is only half filled. So you think of this as a tube, but it's got a top surface like a rapid would. So imagine it's like a half barrel of water, but there's no barrel underneath it, meaning that you could jump in it and start swimming, right? But there's more to it than this. Let's go back to the picture real quick, even though it's an old school picture. There we go, cross section. Okay, objects can be thrust through the sides of the stream, but no water other than a few drops will escape. It would be even possible to walk right through the stream, but you'll be knocked off your feet because it's moving so quickly. The water is lukewarm. Also in this room are 6 small 2-man kayaks, right? But there's no paddles or anything like that. If the players decide to somehow, put someone in the kayak and lift them up from each end of the kayak and set them onto this thing, then they'll be slung downstream. There's like blind cavefish in the water moving by. There's nothing there's nothing preventing the water from coming out. It's like the creature in the film The Abyss, where the surface tension of the water is held together. There's no invisible glass or wall of force or anything. So if you do that, you're eventually going to emerge into this next area. So you go whipping through this cool Disney ride here, like Thunder Mountain, and then water keeps on flowing through this room. There's some nasty stuff in this next room. Let's go to that area and tell you what's happening there. And I'm going to bring this up for you to sort of read and follow along for a minute here. This is about the River Blood, more properly the River Blood murders. So this is a little bit of lore from Greyhawk. But think about this, because this is connected to the enemy that's in here. And also, if you're going to run this, you need to take a few minutes and look on page 139 of your DM's guide, or whichever edition you have, because you need to understand what boots of striding and springing do. Okay, they allow people to move at a high movement rate and leap back. For example, I'll read you a key sentence from it. While normal paces for the individual wearing this type of footgear are 30 feet long, boots enable a forward jump of 30 feet, backward leaps up to 9 feet, and vertical springs of 15 feet. If circumstances prevent the use of such movement in combat, the wearer can effectively strike and spring away when he or she has the initiative during a melee round. However, such activity has a degree of danger, and there's a base 20% chance the wearer of the boots will stumble and be stunned on the following round. Adjust that 20% chance downward by blah, 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 blah. So the enemy in the next area, there's an ambush. So let's read the ambush to you in Area 24. There's 8 fighters under the command of the cruel Sir Bluto sans Pite, or Pite. Await here to ambush any who come through the tunnel. They'll be alerted by the alteration of the flow of the water. If you start tampering with the water, touching it, putting a kayak on it upstream, the stream flows to the room and into this room in the same manner. So remember, it comes through here and comes whipping around the corner. And the guys in here have been waiting. I don't know what they've been doing their entire life in this room with no doors. There's no bathroom. There's no doors. There's just this really nasty, dirty pee stain on the ground. I guess they've been, maybe they're magically enchanted. Who knows? But Sir Bluto's men work in teams of 4. 2 on each side of the stream. As each kayak comes out, assuming you use kayaks and someone doesn't just dive into the water stream, the team will throw a net over and attempt to drag it out of the stream onto the floor. When it falls, they move into finish and hopefully stun whoever is trapped. There's 8 henchmen of these fighters. They're all AC 4 and have 20 hit points each, and they're only 4th level. So if you've got a 10th level fighter go through here first, or a dwarf or something like that, he's not going to get wiped out. They're going to have a tough time hitting you if you've got a good armor class. Sir Bluto himself was a respected knight of the realm before the indictment in the River and Blood mass murder case. This is backstory, right? His mysterious disappearance from prison left even the royal magician detectives baffled, and a reward for 10,000 gold was posted for his capture. Someone in the party is sure to recognize this one-of-a-kind face. Now, he is AC -1. He has a +1 shield, +2 plate. He fights as a 10th level fighter, 50 hit points, +2 to hit, +4 damage. He carries a magic key to the secret door coming up and is wearing boots of striding and springing. The stream continues out of the room. So, when you're running this area, I think it's nice, especially if you're doing Greyhawk, that you have a player already know this information. You might want to take a moment and say, you know what? You recognize this guy. This is the guy that's from the River of Blood murders. That was a mass murder sacrifice of 8 children of wealthy Greyhawk families in 565 CY by Sir Bluto sans Pite, however you want to say it, a local knight. The event was so named because Bluto performed the grisly ritual in a cavern beneath his home where the mill stream enters Greyhawk City, causing the stream to run red with his victim's blood. It's never described as to why he did this horrible thing. He was brought to justice by the adventurers Robolar and Rag, who you may recognize from history, though some accounts say the villain turned himself in. Nonetheless, Bluto escaped soon after with a band of renegade Rene bargemen. Reports placed Bluto a decade later at White Plume Mountain, presumably in service of Caraptus. So perhaps Caraptus has given them some kind of way to live forever, provided them food, given them some magical way to escape the dungeon. Later on, I believe in 3rd edition, the River of Blood's an RPGA adventure for Living Greyhawk campaign. It takes place in his empty house, but it has some backstory in it. I thought that was kind of interesting. I've never heard of the River of Blood RPGA adventure, so I thought that was kind of an interesting encounter. Remember what I said earlier? Boots of striding and springing. Look in your DM's guide, page 139. He can jump in and attack and jump back out. And he's got these cronies with him. So, you know, there's no way out of this room. But he knows how to get out of here because there's secret doors. Now, John didn't mark the secret doors here. So let's go to our old school map here and let's pull that up. He knows how to get out of here, right? So he's got a secret door here that goes down this hallway to a secret door here. I'm in the upper left-hand corner. This is the kayak room where the water flows around this way. And after that fight and everyone's gotten through and everyone's safe and everything, if they get the key off of him, then they can come through this area and come through this area here. Now let's go back to John's map. So this is this long hallway, secret hallway, and that's a secret door as well. Now in the original map, I'm not trying to be a dick pointing this out. There's 2 sets of secret doors. It doesn't really matter. You just open one and go to the next one, right? But if you read carefully in Area 25, there is a little bit of a difference going on here. So there's 2 magical secret doors that reveal themselves and open only if the bearer of Sir Bluto's magic key. So in the original adventure, there's a secret door here and a secret door here. So if you found the regular secret door, you couldn't open this by any means necessary unless you have his key. Well, thank goodness he's stupid enough to run around carrying the key on him. Otherwise, it'd be quite the problem now, wouldn't it? Right? So let's move on to Area 26. Area 26 is a famous room. It's the inverted ziggurat, right? So we're going to open this map up to this area here, all the way down to here. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So you got these, there's an inverted ziggurat. Let's go to the side view diagram. There's a great picture in the original book of what this room looks like. Let's go to here. You got the diagram on the side. Upper level is A. Level 2, B is full of water. It's got this glass wall holding up these crayfish. C, it's got dry area with scorpions in it. D, it's got water with sea lions, which are nasty sea lions, not the nice ones you see in San Francisco. And E, it's got manticores and hippogriffs or something like that at the bottom. I forgot which one it is, but we're going to find that out in just a minute here. So, as the side view of the room shows, this large room is terraced around the outside of a giant steps of a 10-foot deep and wide. So each one of these is 10 feet. 10 feet by 10 feet, 10 feet by 10 feet, 10 foot tall. Remember, that's the height of the top of a basketball rim in a basketball goal, okay? They're magically created glass walls that keep the inhabitants of these terraces confined. For good measure, they've all been charmed in order to stay in their levels as long as the glass walls are intact. Steps B and D are filled to the brim with water, and only exits from the room are the doors on level A and on E. So let's look at John's map again. So there's a door down here which is not indicated, right? And there's a door up here. So when they say A and E, let's look at the original map again so make sure it's really clear, because you can't talk about it if you don't know where I'm talking about, right? So A is this upper platform that goes all the way around, right? And that's the door you come in. E is down below. See the dashed lines? That means it goes all the way down below. So you have to go down to the level of where these manticores are in order to get to that door. See this little cage door here? This is if you've entered the room and took a look at it. And this is the black void to hell, right? So what's in each one of these things? Well, in B is a square pool, live giant crayfish. They're only AC 4, hit dice 4 plus 4, 23 health, no big deal. Level C has 6 giant scorpions, 6 crayfish level above, 6 scorpions, 4 sea lions level below that, 3 wing-clipped manticores. Now, they can't hesitate to fire at you with their spikes. It's even on the cover of the original copy of the module, but they can only hit targets that are the long axis. So if they're in here and you're up here running around, they won't be able to shoot the short axis. So if you're anywhere from here, right, if you're in the upper level from here, let's zoom out a little bit, anywhere from this side wall or this side wall, they could shoot and shoot and shoot and miss because it's too steep of an angle. It's a 45-degree angle. But if you get over here, they can run back and shoot you and hit you. It's an interesting point that they pointed that out, right? Now, the creatures are randomly distributed, but they're expecting to be fed, and they only respond to live food. They'll ignore dead meat and any other kind of food. So they consider anything living that enters the level as food and will attempt to eat it. The glass walls cannot be broken by arrows or stones or things like smashing it with a helmet. An 18-strength character could break a hole in one with 2 to 5 swings of a heavy mace, longer for someone who's not quite as strong. There is a safe is set in the wall opposite the door to level E. Now that's right here. There's a door here, and John's got the door here. This is down at the lower area level where these 2 drains are. And remember, this is all dry down here, and this is where the manticores are. This is a safe, right? Now, if you open this incorrectly, a vibration device, like you don't detect traps and disarm it and don't remove it, a vibration device will trigger and will shatter the glass in 1 to 2 rounds. There's a minute. The safe contains 6,000 silver, which is nothing. 1 piece of jewelry worth 3,000, so it's not even worth it to do that, but no one knows this, right? If all the glass walls are broken, a wall of force, just like in the beginning of the dungeon, will immediately activate in front of the door on level E. So what will happen is, if this water comes pouring down to this lower level, this will immediately activate and protect the water from swooshing down in this area. If the party manages to knock down the wall of force by using Dispel Magic, Disintegrate, or Pass Wall, now we're talking about the glass is broken, all the water's flooded down into the lower areas, this wall of force has gone up, the party's down here, and they figured out some kind of way to knock that wall down, The water will then push open the door and rush into the corridor beyond, pulling along any swimming characters or miscellaneous debris. So if that happens, dash, 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 underwater, underwater, underwater to here, and another wall of force will be appeared here. The water will collide with another modified wall of force, covering the door at the end of the corridor, and begin draining out through a very large grating in the floor the last 10 feet of the passage. Now, John took some liberty and put drains over here, so if those glass walls get broken and all the water floods in, it's going to eventually drain out. So the water will drain straight out through the old lava tube and empty the cave with no other exits. Finally, the last room of the entire adventure is behind this door. And John did a great job with this. Look at this lavish divan or sofa and the world's biggest hookah. So there's a cool picture for this. Let's take a look at that. Here he is. Remember this Willingham picture? It's fantastic, isn't it? That guy, his art with the shadow and everything is wonderful. I love how in AD&D, in the old days, how there was like 8 artists, and the moment you saw a picture, you could tell whose picture it was. Here resides Quesnef, a huge Ogre Magi who lost a bet with Caraptus and as a result must guard his treasure for 1,001 years. The Magic Mouth warns him of the approach of trespassers. Now remember, this is 1,300 years later. So he must have did a bet for, that means Caraptus was here, lived over 200 some odd years, and had this altercation with this Ogre Magi who lost a bet at a minimum, to guard the treasure for 1,001 years. A Magic Mouth warns him of the approach of the trespassers, including all the damn noise in the room, I would imagine, right? He'll be able to disguise himself by polymorphing himself into the form of a doughty halfling warrior, perhaps one who has been trapped by the evil wizard, which is a great opportunity for you to say, I might have him, play like he's been captured. Now, he's actually going to want to kill the party. His AC is 1, hit dice only 5 plus 2, but these guys have fly, invisibility, darkness, 10-foot radius, charm person, sleep, assume gaseous form. He'll be able to slip through your fingers really, really quickly. He can cast cold spells like a wand that do 8d8 points of damage. He regenerates 1 hit point of damage per round, wears a ring of +3 protection, and his left hand is a ring of mirror images with 5 charges. So Ogre Magi are weak and suck in melee, but they have good spells. And in D&D, your saving versus spell is based on what level you are, has nothing to do with the caster. So when the caster is casting, a cold spell at you, like a wand, and does 8d8 damage, you might take 64 points of damage if you're not careful. So he's kept in luxurious surroundings. Let's go back to John's map. The floor is strewn with rugs and cushions. Tapestries cover the walls. A 6-foot hookah stands in the corner. The treasure has been casually shoved beneath a sumptuous divan. It includes, Black Razor, the +3 chaotic neutral sword, intelligence 17, ego only 16. Its purpose, suck souls. It is a black sword that shines like a piece of night sky filled with stars and is sheathed in a black scabbard decorated with pieces of cut obsidian. Let's go ahead and pull up another graphic for you while we talk about the sword, because there's some cool history here I want to mention to you, because I grew up when this stuff actually came out. I'm old, yes, but I still love this stuff. It's awesome. On a killing stroke, Black Razor temporarily adds the number of levels of the dead foe to its bearer's level in terms of fighting ability. So let's say you're a level 10 fighter and you kill a level 8, hit dice 8 hill giant. You gain 8 levels for your attack rolls. That you become a level 18 fighter on the to hit table in your DM's guide or on your DM screen. That's nasty. On the killing blow. Okay? The bearer also gains temporary full hit points of the victim. So if you fought something that had 64 hit points, you gain 64 hit points. And any damage you take comes away from those added hit points first. So if you're in adventure and you're fighting some monsters, if you're a frontline kind of tank guy and you kill something, you get the killing blow, because you're going to have to get the killing blow, you're going to become much resilient really quickly. And you're going to hit everything in the game, including probably demons like Demigorgon and stuff. The extra levels of hit points last a number of turns equal to the number of levels received. So if you kill a 10 hit dice monster, that's 10 turns, right? 10 turns is an hour. Each turn is 10 minutes. No, excuse me. 10 turns is an hour and 40 minutes. Each turn is 10 minutes in original AD&D. Very, very, very powerful. The souls of entities killed by Black Razor are sucked out and devoured. Those killed by Black Sword cannot be resurrected. Every 3 days the sword remains unfed, its ego will increase by 1 point until it can compel the bearer to kill a human or humanoid. Upon feeding, the ego returns to 16. Rules for ego discussed in the Dragon magazine years ago. You can figure out how you want to do it yourself. The ego starts at 16. I always say if the ego gets to 20, things get nasty. It's like saving throws or being compelled to kill someone next to you, etc. Now, Black Razor is negative energy, right? And this is what the player won't know. Like, you don't tell the player all this stuff. When it absorbs positive life energy levels but anytime it strikes a negative energy creature like undead, except for ghouls and ghast, it works in reverse, transferring 1 level and corresponding hit points from the wielder to the creature attacked. So at least it's not all of them. It would do this each time it hits. Under these conditions, the wielder can actually die and have their soul sucked out of their own sword. If the wielder survives, he will need a restoration spell, or twice the usual number of levels received from positive kills to replace the lost levels. So that part's not so bad. You could whack someone, one-shot them and kill them, lose 2 levels of experience, whack the next guy at the same level, gain the 2 levels of experience back. Not experience, but fighting ability, right? So this is something that you as a DM have to figure out how to keep this drawback secret until the first time the sword bites into a wight or a vampire. The DM must remember that Black Razor exists solely to feel power and souls coursing through itself, and sometimes it may not be too picky about where the energy is coming from. Now, in addition, it has the ability to speak with telepathy in whatever language the wielder owns, detects living creatures and souls within 60-foot radius, haste spell, bearer only, 10 rounds. Haste is a very powerful spell in AD&D. You can do this once per day. 10 rounds is 1 turn. That's 10 minutes, right? 100% magic resistance to charm and fear. Exact percentage chance of resistance will depend on the level of the opponent casting the spell. That mechanic's not described. You have to figure that out for yourself. The treasure in that area also includes 1,000 electrum, 200 platinum, 4 pieces of jewelry worth about 11,000 gold, potion of healing, scroll of protection from evil, which is cleric version, and armor of vulnerability. At this point in the adventure, you've pretty much have done everything. Now, what I wanted to bring up this picture here from this Michael Moorcock Stormbringer. So I always felt this picture by Willingham in the back was heavily influenced by Stormbringer. White hair, sculpted, facial features, holding this black sword in his hand. Now the sword is different. It's not the same sword. This guy got a breastplate. He's got a big red cloak on. He's got a big cloak on. This is Michael Wheeling's drawing. You should take a few moments and look up Michael Wheeling. He's done some incredible stuff with his career. This guy is a famous fantasy artist. He was inducted to the Science Fiction Hall of Fame in Seattle in 2009. I mean, that's with luminaries like H.G. Wells, Steven Spielberg, Rod Serling, Ursula K. Le Guin. So a cool tidbit of information. Like, imagine you're this artist working on D&D and you're idolizing this 2 years later, right? This is done in 1980. This will be 3 years after this came out. I can imagine a young artist thinking that this guy's work was the bomb, and I want to do pictures just like his. Now to the very last thing that can happen in the adventure, right? Let's go ahead and pull that up. So if the party succeeds in collecting everything, they're going to have to get back out of here the way they came in. There's no recall stone or hearthstone or anything like that. When they come back over to this area, when you get to this where the force wall was, upon succeeding obtaining 2 or even 3 of the magical weapons and finally leaving for good, they may be stopped at number 2 by the return of the force wall. Now remember, that Gyno Sphinx might still be sitting there if you didn't do anything with her. A voice will speak out to them out of the air. Not thinking of leaving, are you? You've been so very entertaining. I couldn't think of letting you go, especially those little collector's items of mine. And since you've eliminated all the guardians, why, you'll simply have to stay to take their places. I have to ask you to leave all your ridiculous weapons behind and let Nix and Nox escort you to the indoctrination center. It'll be the most disappointing if you cause me troubles and Nix and Nox to eliminate you. But don't worry, you'll like it here. The force wall disappears, and coming up the south passage are Nix and Nox, 2 Ifrits. And remember, Ifrits can go invisible. They're treated as 10th level magic users. They can assume gaseous form. They can cast Enlarge, Polymorph Self, Programmed Illusion, Wall of Fire, all once per day. Normal fire has no effect on them. Magical fire is -1 on both to hit. The party can get past them, you're home free. So you got a fight happening right here with these 2 Ifrits, right? Now remember, you have picked up some cool magic items along the way. Could be a very, very cool fight. You could block this whole corridor with Whelm and the with Wave with the Cube of Force. There's all kinds of neat things you could do here. Now, here's the part that's so lame. At the end of the adventure, it's like, I ran out of time. We got to put this thing to press. Hurry up, Lawrence. So there's this one part. I love this paragraph, and this will be the last part of our long video series. Hope you had fun with it. Okay. So, if for some foolish reason the party decides to comply with Caraptus's request and go with Nix and Nox, I have players do that because they want to kill him. They're motivated to go find out where this guy is. They think they can take him, especially now they have 3 badass artifacts. Okay? Just use your imagination and make it up as you go. Just make sure the party is extremely sorry they ever decided to submit to Caraptus's demands and probably end up as the brainwashed new guardians in the White Plume dungeon. So if you remember earlier, there's a secret door in this pond puddle thing here that had the valve that you can use to drain all the water out of the entire dungeon. So that's mentioned where the indoctrination center is. I personally wouldn't do that. I think it'll be too tempting and too exciting to go through these 3 wings like a WoW dungeon and realize that there's a big boss at the end and you're going to go along with things to be brought to the indoctrination center. So, or people to wipe out the 2 Ifrit. They even give the option that if the 2 Ifrits aren't powerful enough to bring a couple more guys called Box and Cox, right, to come help out. If you want to do this, if you want to make an indoctrination center, you're going to have to define who Caraptus is, right? He's obviously a powerful wizard. What he would have something completely set up where no group of dorks are going to come in there and give him a hassle. He might be like the Wizard of Oz, and he's got a big scrying gem where you can see what you guys have been doing the whole time. Is he a lich now? It's been 1,300 years. Cool opportunity for you to expand on it. Otherwise, GTFO, up the steps, all the way to the surface, nothing but net, and that's the end of our White Plume Mountain DM Guide series. I hope you had fun with this one. I love these old ancient adventures. It's fun going through them and reading through them and thinking about what's really meant here, what's really meant there. And if you have any questions or comments, let me know. I'll be happy to expand upon this stuff. It's entertaining for me to walk down memory lane and look at these things as a DM, think about how players play, and hear your ideas too. You take care, have a fun night, and we'll talk to you later.